Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm joined by David, who's actually here.
That's right.
Welcome, David.
Thank you. It's definitely warmer here in the South Florida studio than it is up in Connecticut. So this was the right place to be. So thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. And last week you were at the Boutique Consulting Forum,
That's right?
That's where I could steal you from.
Exactly.
And we're here to answer your questions about how to grow and how to create success for your boutique consulting practice, right? And actually your solo practice and independent practice as well. Thank you, Patrick, for coming in right with the questions. So as Patrick knows, we encourage interaction. So come in with your answers, contribute to the answers, contribute with comments. This is how the space actually works. So let's go through Patrick's question. What do you say?
Sure. You want me to read it?
Sure.
I have a construction business client who's been on a retainer agreement with me for about a year. We transitioned from doing an initial project together, creating project management systems, et cetera, to continued consulting, COO type service supporting their company. So it sounds like you've moved to more of from a project into an advisory capacity. Right. Let me know if we're getting that right. I'm looking for ways to continue building momentum, increasing the value this client gets out of the relationship. Generally speaking, are there some steps you would recommend I incorporate? Hopefully that's the question. It goes on, but that's all we can see. So Patrick, have you moved from project to
retainer type
sort of
agreement? That's what it sounds,
advisory?
Right? Tactical ways to strengthen the relationship while it is a retainer, because it's different from a project, right? So how do you continue to
so first of all, congratulations on moving forward and continuing to have the client. One idea I would explore is building into all of your projects, but especially with clients like this, an opportunity assessment. So a sit down with your client where you explore the various opportunities you see for them that are outside the scope of what you do or outside the scope of what you've been doing. Because you've been involved in this firm now, in this client, you have the ability to see all sorts of ways they could improve, all sorts of ways they could benefit from doing things differently, some of which you can help with and some of which you can't. But you can give them the sort of full array of here's what we've seen. And by doing that, it opens the door to expand the relationship. So that's one thing. Anything else occur to you?
I think so. Another element is not to lose sight, even though you're on a retainer basis, right? On a retainer type of agreement, playing more of a COO role, still have objectives with timelines that you're shooting for and still track progress against those. So that if your client now is going to look at what's Patrick doing, how's Patrick adding value? How's this relationship adding value to us? It's really easy to identify and track what's the value you've been adding to the organization. Because if you get embedded in the day-to-day so much, it's sometimes people lose track of where do they actually have their hands in, what project they're doing, how is the project advancing, and all of that. So keep track of which elements are you involved in and manage them kind of in a hybrid project day-to-day approach where you know what the metrics are, you know what success looks like, and you're tracking against that as well.
I think it's a great idea. So Patrick, does that help? Let us know whether that's helpful or not. And I'll read the next one, you answer, whatever it is. I'll just read it. Okay, so Patrick also asked, I'm getting to a point with a few of my clients.
It's part two of the first question we just did.
Okay. Got it. Within the context of building trust, tactical ways to strengthen. Yeah. So I think Patrick, did our answer work for both of your parts? If not, let us know. If so, let us know. And otherwise, what other comments?
Exactly, John. Thank you for chiming in. Regular reporting to the client. That's what we were alluding to.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
100%. Excellent. And if you have a question that's related or unrelated to that, throw it into the chat and we'll answer. All right. And otherwise, Deidre, what's in the magic bag of questions that have come in from folks between sessions?
All right.
I'll read. You do it?
All right.
Okay. We've worked on a proposal that involves collaborating with a partnering firm that knows the client well. So far, we've been introduced to 2 people at the client, part of the project team, but haven't met with the decision maker. The decision maker received the proposal for final approval and sent back questions and comments that have left everyone, including the 2 people at his own company, scratching our heads. I'm not sure we're talking about the same things. What do we do now? You want that, or do you want me to
Sure.
You want me to take that?
It seems, Jeff, you put yourself in a very interesting position. So here's the good thing. You created momentum, and you've also given us a perfect example, I think, of why conversations, context discussions, discovery should always include the decision makers. Yeah. And you should never leave the decision makers out of this part of the equation, right? So I think it's time for you to send a note back and say, look, let's get in the same room with the decision maker, because we're clearly not speaking the same language. The internal team is not speaking the same language as the decision maker. You as a consultant is not speaking the same language as the decision maker. So time to refresh your context discussion. And so talk about the situation, start from the situation, from the very top of your context discussion, your desired outcomes, the value of the project, and do all of the pieces before you start talking into the, how does this project look like? What are the specifics of the project? Why, you ask? Because you may need to rethink your proposal in its entirety. And it's okay to rethink the proposal in its entirety if it would get you aligned with the decision maker, right? So again, refresh context before, and once you have a context, then go ahead and align a proposal. If you need to tweak the proposal, make tweaks. If you need to rethink the proposal, then rethink it all together. Yeah. What do you think, David?
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you. So I also think, I think there's some silver lining in this in some ways, because if this happened to you, it was Jeff, right? Who wrote this?
Jeff.
You now have an honest to goodness example of why, when you're talking to people below the decision maker or not the decision maker, why you ask to speak to the decision maker. Because for a lot of folks, that's the kind of the right process, the official process, but you might feel like, well, I'm kind of making it up. I don't really need to meet with the decision maker. No, you really do. Or else this kind of thing happens, right? Or else you end up with this craziness where you've spent all sorts of time with junior folks, and then the decision maker is like, no, that's not what I think at all. So you have a good story now, and it's useful to have that story. I think the other place people sometimes get caught is they feel like, if I can't talk with the decision maker directly, that means the whole process goes out the window, and it really doesn't. All it means is you have to insist to the people you are talking with that before you submit a proposal, that the decision maker agrees to the context. And if you can get that agreement, you say, look, I'll send you a proposal. I just need to hear from you that you have shown this to the decision maker.
Fair.
And the decision maker has come back and agreed with it. So that's the only thing I would add on.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
And Suzanne, thank you for saying that you agreed. In the meantime, both Alan and Brad have shared their questions. So let's go with Alan's first, because it came in.
You want to read, or you want me to read?
Oh, you are better at reading than me.
Okay, I will do the reading. I'm very green and new to independent consulting, but feel very grateful to have 3 clients. Oh, good for you. Congratulations. I'm building my website, should be released soon. Okay. I also then should build up my LinkedIn presence. I want to mature enough as a business. Don't want to spend too much time and energy that is then wasted. Any advice for someone who's been incorporated for 5 to 12 months, maybe? So first of all, congratulations.
Exactly.
You're starting with some clients. That's outstanding.
Right.
The website, it's good that you have one up. I wouldn't put a lot of effort into it right now. I wouldn't even worry that much about LinkedIn offhand right now. I think the most important thing that you can do is be very, very clear, spend time becoming very, very clear on your target, what your offering is, and ensuring you are fishing where the fish are. That is perhaps the most important step at the early stages to establish your practice. Yeah? No?
I would think so. And in parallel, there's an element where I think of LinkedIn as having two sides, right? A coin with two sides. One side is visibility building.
Right.
And 100% with you about not the priority necessarily at this moment, given that you already have clients and some momentum. The second side of LinkedIn is the connection side.
Yes.
The one-to-one connection side. If that's important to you and to your tribe, I wouldn't park that, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't park that on any tool, right? On any media. I wouldn't park that via email. I wouldn't park that via phone call. I wouldn't park that via text, via LinkedIn, whatever tools you have been using to connect with your tribe. That's where projects actually come from. So as you're working, as David said, on figuring out your impact, your problemeter, on doing all that work, keep some momentum in your conversations. And if that's the way you're using LinkedIn, then maintain that heartworm.
Yeah, I agree with that. No, I agree completely. I think it's a really good distinction. The visibility building, which is important to do, and yet it's not the first thing you need to jump on as a new consultant.
Right.
And sort of visibility building writ large and networking, which is an important part of visibility building. But networking and relationship building, I agree with you. I think that is important. And if you can do that on LinkedIn, I would continue it.
And Suzanne is adding that she would also spend time gathering more data, which means basically building case studies, right?
Yes.
Or creating evidence, testimonials, referrals, all of that.
Exactly.
All right, Alan, I'm glad that helped.
Perfect.
Okay, let's go to Brad's question.
Okay.
And then I think that's the last one we're going to have time to do today.
Well, we'll see. And I won't even ask Bradley whether it's Bradley or Brad again. Okay. Hi, David and Marisabel. In a previous session, you mentioned that independent consulting firms can usually make it about 7 years with their initial customer base. That sounds about right. What do you recommend to firms reaching 7 years in order to sustain and continue to grow their practice with new clients?
All right.
Go ahead.
So why do we talk about 7 years? Because in a span of 7 years, some of the folks who were initially, or you would have initially cataloged as part of your network core, would no longer be in your network core, right? There's a natural rotation in who is in your network core and who isn't, who changes jobs, who changes functions, and how people evolve in their career, if you will, and in their relationship with you, right? So part of what you're always need to be looking to do, not only at the 7-year mark, but always, is how do you keep growing or maintaining your network core? How do you add new relationships with decision makers and with influencers? And how do you create those relationships so that they warm up over time?
Yeah.
And basically that's where I would say the sustainability and the growth path comes from. David, what do you add to that?
Yeah, the 7-year mark should act as some fear creation for you, so that you do all the right things in years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Because you do those things, 7 years passes and it doesn't matter. The challenge is when you don't nurture your network, when you don't refresh your network and add to your network, but instead you're just sort of feeding on the same network. When you feed on the same network, that's where it becomes really problematic. But if you're nurturing, then you'll hit 5, 7, 9, 11. We had someone at the forum last week who had a firm was at 27 years.
Right.
But that firm's been constantly updating their network.
Right. You can't rely on the original, I would say, network beyond a certain number of years without injecting new energy and new blood into it.
Exactly right. I know we need to finish up. Jill, agree that posting once a week isn't a bad thing for LinkedIn, and at least having a reasonably professional profile, which is pretty easy to do these days, is smart. Thank you all for asking questions. Thank you for already, you spent 15 minutes with us today. Couple of quick reminders, which I don't remember, but Deidre will put them on the screen. Oh yeah, make sure you come every week and join us. We don't always get to be together, but we always want to be with you. And you can do that by putting davidafields.com/Monday Live into your calendar. What else do we have, Deidre? Subscribe make sure you get the articles. They've been pretty active the last few weeks. So come and see the articles and read the comments and see what smart people like you have to say. And you can subscribe right where it is there. And do we have any others, or is that it, Deidre? That's it. So thank you again for joining Maria Isabel and me. Remember always that consulting is not about us and it's not about you. It's about them. It's about your clients. It's about your prospects. So treat them with kindness, give them value, and we will see you next week.
Next week, God willing. And for those of you who submitted questions via email, if they're on the queue, we'll get to them.
Yes, we will get to your questions. We promise. Take
Have a
care,
great
everyone.
week. Thank you.